Hi, folks. Welcome. It's Anthony. I'm just going to wait. We're going to wait 5 or 8 minutes or so before we get started. Just want to do a sound check and a video check. If you can chat in there, if you can find the chat, and let me know if you can hear or see me. That would be fantastic. Thanks, B. Excellent, Rachel. Awesome. Great. We'll let everybody get in. Lenny, excellent. Nice to see you. Great. So while we're waiting then, if you can all hear me, get some water, relax for a bit. We'll get started in a few minutes. Hi, folks. It's 5 o'clock. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. Going to give everybody a chance. We did have a large number of registrations tonight, so I want to make sure folks get here. So we'll give it another minute or two. So in the meantime, I'm going to put my email in the chat. And so you have that. It's on the first slide, but just in case you can't see it, I'm going to put it in the chat area. So there it is right there. If you want to jot it down before we get started. One more minute, actually 2 more minutes. Thanks, Jen. Hi, everyone. Well, welcome. We're going to get started. Again, we have a big crowd tonight, so if you haven't gotten familiar with Webinar Jam, which is the platform we're using tonight, some of you already started chatting in some questions there. I do have my counselors as well here, so one of us will be answering your question or we'll just answer it live here. My name is Anthony Russamano. I am with CUSD-Futureology. We are your college and career counseling program for the school district. Some of you might know us from our one-on-one appointments, have been to our group workshops. I'm the coordinator. My email is in the chat, and my name's on the board here. Our website has our information and my counselor's information. Jen's one of my counselors there. Bee's also here, and Kristen and Monica, so you'll be seeing them in the chat as well. So tonight is about why test in a test optional college landscape. I decided to put tonight's session together, and hopefully by midway through we'll open it up to lots of questions. But because the UCs just came out with some information about their policies, and we're going to cover that tonight. So again, thank you for coming. Somebody already asked. It's going to be recorded. We usually put all our webinars on our website. It's actually in the chat already, CUSD-Futureology. And that's /locker. You'll see that on our website. So it's on the chat area where you can find that. For those you don't know about Futurology, we are a free program for the district. We meet with students one-on-one. We were doing that in person, and now through distance learning, we've been doing it online just like this. And we do group workshops. We will sometimes at your schools. We have appointments. We have resources. A lot of our information can be seen on our website. And in the chat, there's a sticky message there with our event page and our appointment page. So you can actually check that out there if you haven't. If you registered for tonight, you've already been there before. So again, thanks everyone for coming. Tonight is really going to be four things I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about the UC news and give you a snapshot of what just happened just recently. And actually, Derek was kindly enough to put the link in the chat as well. Thank you, Derek. Two, I'm going to talk about just perspective for college admissions in general and talk about that. Three, I'm going to give you some recommendations about with this policy, how should we be thinking about it? Because the summer is about to hit, and I want to make sure you have enough information to make the best and most informed decision for you. And then the last thing, we'll talk a little bit about considerations as you're making these decisions. Okay, so that's what we're going to do tonight. That's me and my kids. You don't need to know how long I've been doing this, but supposedly I'm some type of testing expert, and I've been a tutor for a long time. So I know this is really stressful. I know this time right now is really chaotic here. And so we're really going to take the time to kind of give you that snapshot and that perspective. And hopefully when you leave tonight, you'll have more information to be able to make the better decisions. So again, this pandemic has been a major impact on what's going on in our lives, whether it be school, whether it be our family's jobs, with our family. And so with that, you probably have a lot of questions. There's a lot of uncertainty right now, and we're really scrambling around. So again, we put this together to kind of give you some comfort level and give you some advice along the way. But still, with what's going on in college admissions and some of these testing news, there's still going to be uncertainty. And so we're going to have to find some comfort with being uncertain. That's kind of the new narrative with this, because every day things change. So again, you still might have some stress and anxiety, but in this time of crisis, having more information and being able to know what possibilities there are is going to give you some options and hopefully keep you open-minded from that. So with that said, the first part is we're going to jump into is just looking at that UC poly. But before I start, in the chat area, if you have a question, please type your comment in. You can send it to everybody or privately to me if you don't want to be seen asking that question. And if it is a question, you can mark it as a question, by clicking on that circle, and then I know that a question has come in and I can take a look, or my counselors can take a look and just address that question. Now, what I will give you the caveat on, please let me go through some of the information but first before you start shooting out your specific question about what you need to do and I've got this score and what do I do, because have the information under your belt, then maybe ask the question a little bit later. If it's something specific I just said and you want some clarification, then please ask the question. Okay, so with that said, let's take a look using my old Polaroid here of what is really happening with just the release of the UCs, and where they're saying that, hey, by the way, we're no longer requiring some testing. And so everybody's kind of feeling, oh, well, now I don't have to take it. So first, let's get an understanding of what's going on and what this policy is. So the first thing that they came out and said was, no longer do they need the writing portion of the exam. So the SAT and the ACT, if you did not know, they have a writing element to the test. It does not go into your number score. So on the ACT, your scores goes up to 36, 1 to 36. On the SAT, out of 1600. That essay and writing score for both of those exams never went into that number score. It was a separate score. Okay, so, but what the UCs are saying, are they eliminating it? They're eliminating it. So it's altogether eliminated. Now, granted, you might have some other schools that might require it, but the UCs right now are not requiring that for admissions. So that's the first part of it. Okay. By the way, I'm starting to get some emails. If you cannot hear, if you're having issues with hearing, try either clicking refresh if you're having audio issues. Try maybe a different browser and logging back in. Okay, I know some people are just kind of emailing me saying we're having troubles and difficulties checking in. So again, it will be recorded. If you miss it, you could always go back and catch what you missed. Okay. All right, number 2. For fall of 2021 and fall of 2022, it's going to be test optional. And let me kind of explain, because the first one is about test optional, the second one is about test blind. I want to make sure you understand what that means. So for fall 2021 and 2022, campuses have the option to use test scores, so the SAT or the ACT, in consideration for admission. Christine, you have to click there's a button in the middle of the screen you can press to make sure that it starts. Can you hear me though? Or try logging back in. I'm just going to do another sound check. Can B and Monica, can you guys all hear me? Jen, can you hear me? Yeah, so press reconnect. Sorry for the pause, everybody. Okay, everybody, perfect. We can hear you. Great. I'm going to continue. I got scared a little bit that a few people were saying they couldn't hear. Excellent. So test optional. What that means is campuses have the option to use the scores for admissions purposes. That's if you submit them. If you don't submit them, obviously they can't use them. So what test optional means is if you submit them, they will use them. If you don't submit them, they won't use them. They won't use them at all. So that's test optional. By the way, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, there are over 1,000 schools that are test optional. And with the changes, with the pandemic going on too, for all those rising seniors, a lot of schools said they are test optional for this upcoming fall anyway. Okay, but the UCs are coming out and saying for the next 2 falls, 2021 and 22, it's test optional. Okay, now moving to test blind, what that means for fall 2023 and fall 2024, test blind means they're not going to consider test scores. Okay, you can submit them, but they won't consider them for admissions. Let me be clear. So for admissions purposes, whether you get in, get denied, they're not going to be using test scores for fall of 2023 and fall of 2024. Okay. That's what test blind means, okay? And this is for California public and independent high school applicants, okay? Now, what they are saying is the test scores could be used for other purposes like scholarships, merit scholarships, course placement, but for admissions, it will not be used, okay? Then it further goes on to talk about the UCs are going to be trying to create themselves or bring outside resources to come in and create a new test. So starting actually this summer and for the next year, they're going to go on a process to identify or create a new test that aligns with what they believe to be a better predictor of college success. Okay. So that's going to happen start this summer. And by the year of, well, 2025, they're going to eliminate totally the SAT and the ACT. So they're going to eliminate it by 2025. And if they have this new test developed and they believe this new test is ready to go and believe it's going to add some value into the process, they're going to use this new test. So the UC system are saying, we don't, in some ways, we don't like the SAT or the ACT. We're kind of removing that, and we're going to bring in this new test hopefully by 2025. And if they don't have this new test by 2025, then these tests will be eliminated. They're not going to be using a test for freshman admissions. Okay, so that's what just happened over the last week and a half. Okay. Again, if some folks keep emailing and privately messaging, if you have no sound, if you see it in the chat, you can hit reconnect. So we're going to just type that in again. All right. So that's what's happening. That's the UC snapshot. And when this came out, I got a lot of emails and a lot of calls and questions. And that's kind of why we're doing this. I wanted to kind of, one, go through what this summary is. And then number two, how do we make decisions based on what was just written or we read, okay? And that's probably the hardest thing to do is, okay, so now I don't have to test. What is it really telling me? And so tonight, I'm going to take you through the next part of this and talk a little bit about the perspective of it and how do we apply this to making decisions in this world of college admissions and testing. The CSU has not come out and stated anything of this nature. We've got to be checking and ready for this summer. But a lot of times the UCs and the Cal States go hand in hand. But let me get to the recommendations perspective and we'll talk a little bit about that. And thank you, Kristen, for answering. Kristen's one of our counselors there. And she's saying Cal State has not put out a formal statement yet, okay? So again, keeping that in mind, this would, the same kind of information and perspective and considerations will apply if the Cal States also come out with the same information. So let's take you through the next slide and talking about perspective. First, you have to understand that when you're applying to college, and a lot of you are going to be applying this fall, some of you are in a year or a couple years, when you apply to a test optional school and you don't submit a test score, you're not penalized for it, okay? Now, a test blind school, they don't even look at it. So you can submit it, but they're not even looking at it for admission. So again, you're not penalized for not submitting a test score. When we look at the big picture, as I call it, or holistic review, students are looked at in the context of their application and their opportunities. So right now, with the craziness going on, some people aren't even going to get a chance to test, or it's been too complicated, their tests have been canceled. And so within the context of that, it's understandable. And that's why a lot of schools are going to test optional, especially for this fall. So you're okay, again, in the context of your educational opportunities. And educational opportunities, they don't just mean test scores. It means bigger than that. So you're not at an advantage or a disadvantage, okay? So if you don't submit a score and the person next to you submits a score, to a test optional school, you're not at a disadvantage necessarily, okay? So that's one thing to understand, all right? So as we look at the big picture, test scores, so now we're talking test scores today, is in the grand scheme of it, only one piece of the admissions or the holistic puzzle, okay? So understand, just the same as people go, well, shoot, should I take this class or this class? In the grand scheme of 4 years of school, one class over another typically doesn't make the decisions for admissions officers. So from a holistic perspective, my son's in middle school, and I'm going, hey, this one test in the grand scheme of it, don't stress too much. It's just one test in the grand scheme of it. I still want you to have good habits, but it's only one test. So in the grand scheme of it all, you just need to take that in consideration. They look at more than just your test score, okay? So we got some questions coming in, and I will answer those in a few seconds, okay? So hold on to those. Amy, hold on, Robin, and we'll get to those. And again, we're going to kind of go through the perspective first, and some of those questions kind of will be answered in that. So the biggest thing my counselors and I get is it really comes down to they're always the fear, or what they worry about is, am I going to go to a good college? That's the worry or the fear that we're dealing with. And I'm telling you, whether you submit a test score or choose test optional schools or not, you're gonna, if you want to go to a college, you're going to go to a college. Okay, the bigger thing usually comes about whether you not attend a particular school. It's really about choosing the right fit college. And that's picking your college list is probably the bigger piece of it all than what we're talking about now. That's why my counselors run a college list jumpstart, a college list drop-in. They run a bunch of different events on college search and doing that, because that plays a bigger role in all of this, whether you're gonna get in or not. And a lot of times kids pick the wrong schools or are not a good fit, and it doesn't work out. So that's choosing the right school, and the right fit school is part of this puzzle. Maybe less about the test scores and all that. So yes, we are recording this. So a lot of people saying they're having trouble hearing. Again, you might want to try a different browser, but it will be recorded, okay? So in the grand scheme of it all, what I'm going to tell you now is focus on what you can control. Okay, that one is going to diminish your stress. You cannot control what these colleges and universities are going to do. You cannot control what's going to happen with distance learning. You can't control a lot of those things. What you can control is, one, how you stay informed. Like being here tonight is a big deal. Staying informed about what's happening. Two, being informed about the decisions you make. But if you start worrying about the things you can't control, you're going to feel more pressure in this. What you can control, one, is if you decide to test or not. If you decide to prep for the test, or how much effort you put into that, you can control that. What you can't control is if they cancel a test date. What you can control is being prepared if they do cancel a test date. So there's things you control and things you cannot. You can control the experience you gain, how curious your learning is, and how engaged in your learning and your distance learning are. You can't control whether the class is going to be moved online or not. You can't control that. So again, focus on what you can control. Jake, the colleges differentiate between accepting those who took the test or did not take the test. Again, if you submit a test score to a test optional school, they will consider that. If you didn't, they're not going to consider that. So you're not going to, as I mentioned, you won't be at a disadvantage if you don't submit a test score. What you'll understand is other things will actually play a larger role then for you, Jake, or everybody on the call. So personal statements, letters of recommendation. Personal statements are like your college essays. So if you don't submit a test score, there's probably, what we'll probably see this next year, especially because a lot of schools are going test optional, is that that's going to carry more weight than it typically has in the past. Okay, so don't be concerned you're going to be at a disadvantage. If you decide you're not going to test, and we're not done with this call, so I want to make sure you consider everything. don't feel you'll be at a disadvantage. Then you got to make sure those other things you're submitting and your experiences and what you say in your essays are really focused, okay? You know, just the same as if a school that requires recommendations, now like the UCs and Cal States don't, but for schools that do, maybe smaller private schools that require them, you better make sure that you're getting the right recommendation from the right teacher, okay? So anyway, get back to the big picture. So again, they're going to read your application in context, what you did or did not do. And again, test optional, you won't be held at a disadvantage. What's always going to matter in college admissions and something you can control and affect is things that always matter are things like courage, creativity, character, okay, collaboration. Okay, now, right now in this time, collaboration looks different because we can't necessarily be in a group in person, but we can be online like we're doing now and collaborate. That's going to look a little different, but you can still get involved and engage that way. But those things really matter a ton for colleges and universities, and they will always matter. Again, things are going to look different now. So again, if you don't take the test, well, there's maybe ways you can get involved showing your creativity or your character or how you love to learn and taking a different type of class you normally wouldn't take that you learned, that you found out and self-reflected on over these last 3 months that you didn't know you had an interest in. That's a fantastic story. So there's going to be more opportunities there to maybe generate those in this time of distance learning, and you have to find what those are. This call isn't necessarily about doing that right now. But what will always be true in this process is colleges are looking to admit kids, not deny kids, okay? So again, if you don't have those tests, well, they're not going to say, well, let me deny the kid because he doesn't have a test. No, they're going to find reasons to admit the kids. Somebody asked earlier, what if I submit a good score when tests are optional? Isn't that an extra notch in your belt? That's a good, if it can be an additive value. If it's going to add value to you, then sure, submit it. And I'll get to my recommendations later. So again, now a good score is going to be dependent on what school you're applying to. And we'll talk about that as considerations in a little bit. So yes, Robin, it can help you in that sense. If you're applying to school and you have a 1300 and the school normally is looking for kids with 1150s, sure, then you could submit it. But if you don't take the test, then what happens? Okay. All right, moving on here. Again, a lot of this uncertainty, I get it. It's kind of makes us feel more anxious, but you need to understand there are still things you can control, like who you get the letters of rec from, what you write in your college essay. You have control over those things. So for those rising seniors now, you have this summer to focus on things you can control, whether you take the test in prep, your personal statement or essay, your college list, and making sure you've researched enough colleges to make sure you're choosing the right schools. All those things you can control. You can't control what's going to happen next week or what school's going to look like in the fall. You don't control that, okay? All right, so I'm going to move on. We got a few more questions in. I'm going to try to get to these here. Thank you, Kristen. Kristen posted something about comprehensive review. And again, this talks about holistic or comprehensive review in the sense they look at more than one thing, okay? Okay, perfect. I'm just checking this. Carol asked, and this came in, if you guys aren't reading the chat, my counselors are giving some really great information in there. What categories admissions focus on? Carol, that's a bigger question of understanding what admissions is. And you're going to see if you looked at the what UCs, and again, this is UCs, and other schools carry more weight in certain areas than others. But if you kind of click on that link, you're going to see that they look at a whole bunch of different things. Again, from your essays to the activities and experiences you have, your background, your context. So take a look at those categories. That's part of the research you have to do to understand where you're applying to and where do they put the weight in terms of what they're looking at. And again, when a school says they're test optional, if you don't submit a test score, they're going to be looking at these other things. And if you don't have a test score, that's okay. They'll be looking at these other things, and those will carry more weight for you. So another question came is, well, what if you don't submit a test score? I'm going to say this again. They will look at those other elements of comprehensive review. Okay. So take a look at that link in there. Okay. I also sent you a bunch of links in a handout and an email this afternoon. I'm going to send one now as well in this chat. And if you downloaded or you copied it this afternoon when I emailed you, you won't need to download these handouts that I had, but I'll have a bunch of links to some of the updates on UCs and Cal States and testing and things like that. So you can use that as well. Okay. All right. One more question before I go on to my recommendation, and that was sent earlier. And they got a really good test score. It was sent privately, so I'll just kind of throw it out there. Got a really good test score. Again, if you have a test score already and it's really good compared to the school you're applying to, submit it. Why wouldn't you submit it? Okay. So it can still help you. Again, it's an additive value. If it doesn't help you in the grand scheme, and again, this is part of the research that you need to do in college admissions. But if you don't know if it's going to help you or not, then you haven't done your research. And that's part of it. And again, or you haven't talked to my counselors, because they probably would have told you, hey, submit that score, student X. That sounds like a great score, and that's going to help you. Okay. Or they might tell you some other things that might help you. Okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit about my recommendations. And this is kind of where we've gotten a lot of, well, what do I do now? Should I test? Should I not test? And I want to make sure, again, that I don't pass over some of these questions. Okay, so now we're asking, okay, here's my recommendation. So I'm going to do my recommendations, and then if you still have a question, and some of these, again, folks, I know you want me to get to the recommendations and the considerations. So I know you're trying to chomping at the bit to get your specific questions answered now, but sometimes just waiting just so you can hear everything will be helpful, and then ask the question. Okay, I know I'm being a little diligent about reminding you about that, but a lot of the questions I'm going to cover, and I want to make sure you have a good foundation before you ask the question. Okay. All right. So my number one recommendation to college, this again, I'm just here to make sure, to college bound students, and my counselors the same thing, is to take the SAT or the ACT with the essay or writing. Okay. That's still my number one, or my counselors, our number one recommendation. Okay. And I'll tell you why. It keeps all your options open. Okay. If we don't know where you're going to apply, if you don't even know what your best fit schools are, if you don't know any of that, but you know you want to attend college, it's the best scenario to give you the most educational opportunities. Point blank. Okay. Now, again, a lot of you might come in and here's my specific situation. It might change that. But in general, if you're not really sure, but you know you want to go to college, we don't have a college list yet or anything, it makes sense to take the test, because what we're talking about with UC is just the UCs. And most kids that I've ever dealt with are applying to schools out of state. They're applying to some UCs, maybe some Cal State. It's a mixture of things. It's not one particular type of school. That's all doing one thing. Unfortunately, in the college admissions landscape, they all don't do one thing. They don't do it all on the same platform. They don't all decide to do the same things. And unfortunately, you have to take that just the same as they don't all use the same applications. If you apply to UCs, you got to do the UC application. If you apply to another school, you might have to do the Common App. So it's going to be different. All right. So I'm going to touch on that a little bit more about the options, but I'm going to take a peek of this. Okay. Okay, lots of, again, folks, I hear you. I feel the stress coming in. I'm gonna hit up a lot of points that you can digest, and we'll get there. Again, it's only 30 minutes in, and we're getting a lot of questions. I can see that, again, things have been frustrating. I get it, but you're going to have to be patient. As with this process, if you're not patient with this process, it's going to be more stressful. I'm telling you. Okay, so. The other recommendations is to keep in mind, another reason we're asking you to test is if you want a merit scholarship. So somebody actually said, oh, well, what if I want to get some aid, some merit aid, where I'm getting a scholarship? That's why you want to test. If you don't test, you lose out on some of those opportunities. If you looked and remembered at the UC information, they said it still can be used for scholarships. So again, if you want merit scholarships, and somebody earlier said, I have a really good test score, great, submit the scores so you can be eligible for the scholarships. The other thing it's going to be used for is placement. You might have placement opportunities by taking the test. It might place you in a higher class. You'll be able to miss a different class. That's another reason to take the test. The third piece of it is with the UCs especially, and even the Cal States, your eligibility, okay? It allows you to potentially be more eligible and get into a school by just having certain set of numbers, okay? So by taking the exams, it's just creating more opportunity for you, okay? The other thing is just because you take it doesn't mean you have to report it, okay? So that's really important. You can take the test and then, oh, I'm just not going to submit it. You can do that. So again, you have the option to hold on to that. And the other reason you take it is if you take it and you score above, and somebody asked this earlier, a score above what that school averages normally, it's going to add value to your candidacy. Okay, so that's really important as well. So again, you might go, well, I thought I wasn't going to take it, and now Anthony's telling me to take it. Again, I don't know your specific situations, everybody here, but you're taking the test. If you want to go to college and you're unsure where you want to go, then we recommend you test. If you're unsure if you want to attend college at all, you're unsure about college in general, then maybe you wait a little bit till you know more, okay? But hey, I'm sure I want to go, but I don't know where, you still test. I'm sure I want to go and 100% sure, okay, well, I'm going to do a mixture of UCs and out of states, great, then you should test. Even if you were thinking, oh, I'm just applying to UCs only, I'd still recommend you test if you want merit aid and you're above the average score. The only way you're probably not testing if you're thinking community colleges only or test optional schools only, and it's not going to be additive value, or you really, what I tell students, it really makes you break out in hives when you hear the word SAT or ACT, and you're really uncomfortable with the stress and anxiety that makes you feel when you think about tests. Okay, so again, my recommendations, and I'll get to considerations in a second. There's still a few more questions coming in. Can you start taking the other part, when the ACT rolls out this fall, you can do it by section. Sure, you can do that starting with the September test if you've already taken it. So the ACT allows you to take different sections, okay, and improve those scores. Sure. Again, as far as that strategy goes, I don't know exactly where you're going to, Amy, but if you're applying to certain schools, they're not going to care. They're still going to take your best sitting. So you need to make sure that it's going to be useful for you. Okay, so what Amy's talking about is something we call best sitting versus super scoring. What super scoring is if you take your best math and your best reading and your best science and combine those together. Okay, so some schools super score. And if your schools that you're applying to super score, then yes, Amy, it makes sense. If your schools don't super score, then it doesn't make sense to do that because now you're just wasting time. You need to take the whole test again and see if you go up. So again, that strategy is a good idea to make sure, though, that the schools would allow you to do that. Okay, so all right, let me look at some of the other questions before I go into other considerations when I talk about what you should do next steps and everything. And again, I'm trying to hit all these points in a methodical way. I know some of you are still getting ahead. They're like, well, what do I do? What do I do? So my counselors, if there's any questions right now that are kind of lingering that we need to answer, please kind of either post back up or send it to me so I can answer that. Okay, so a lot of people are having issues. All right, so let's see. All right, so somebody is wondering, I've prepped to take the test in April, June, and they've been canceled. With these new changes, would you recommend still proceeding in the fall with testing despite prepping 9 months earlier? Well, what I recommend, again, and this will be part of my key considerations. So let's kind of go through these and I'll kind of touch on that, what you're asking, Claire. Number one is we just need to start with, when we talk about key considerations, what are your schools, and I mentioned this before, what are the requirements? Do they super score? What are their policies? Are they test optional? What are the school's averages? This type of research is really important to give you some perspective of some of the strategy you should employ, okay? So if you haven't done that yet, this summer would be a good time. For you rising seniors, it needs to be a must. You need to start looking at it. For some of you younger students, you might just not have that perspective yet, or you're not there yet, and you might be testing before you even have that information. But the more you know about some of the schools you're applying to, whether they super score or not, will help you, give you a more solid strategy. In the case for you, Claire, the question is going to be more, where are you applying? What was your mock score? What were you scoring when you prepped? And does it make sense to continue on? Because you're really going to be getting a score that's going to help and be additive to you and continuing that. Or are you willing to forego all that and just apply to test optional schools? So it's a bigger conversation about that. You might need to be testing in September and potentially October, unfortunately. And that, unfortunately, has just dragged out your timeline for prepping a really long time. So that sucks. I apologize for that. There's nothing we can do. We cannot control that. What you can control is keeping the right attitude, sticking with it, or just pulling the plug on it and saying, I'm just going to go forward, apply to these types of schools and not deal with it. Okay, so if you haven't taken the actual exam yet for real, then that's some of those questions you're going to have to consider, and I'll touch on a few more of those. College selection and selectivity. Depending on where you want to go to school, for more selective colleges, it is best to take the SAT or ACT because they're typically taking those exams, and take it with essay and writing. Okay, so if you're looking, I'm looking at the higher top, schools that look for top, they accept less than 30% of the students. Typically, you're going to want to take the SAT or the ACT. So by just saying you want those type of schools, you're putting yourself in a category to take the test. SAT and ACT signups, they're done, well, actually, June 3rd, the SAT will open up for the fall for non-priority students. ACT, some of the scheduling is done. It really depends on when your test date is. There are deadlines available. So I would start, if you're planning on taking this summer, to go on later this week and look for your test date. Okay. Another consideration is merit aid. We already talked about it. A score on this test can qualify you for the scholarship. So I would suggest taking one of these exams. And what I mentioned earlier is when you apply to a certain school, if you're looking for merit aid, you want to be in the top 10% of that school. So for example, if you have a 1200 and you're applying to UCLA, you're not going to get merit aid. Your score is well below, typically you're not going to get merit aid. That's probably not a school you're trying to shoot for merit aid at because the numbers are too high. But if you're applying to, maybe you have a 1300 and you're applying to New Mexico, then it makes sense. So you have to look at some of the schools you're applying to and where the range of the scores are if you're looking for merit aid. Okay. Zulan asking steps I can take as an incoming sophomore. It's a little bit early, Hulan. Those are we have a bunch of other webinars you probably want to watch. I really want to focus on making decisions this summer. If you're an incoming sophomore, the biggest thing you can do, and I'll get to it, is take a practice test. Yes, Rachel, I'm saying you can, well, merit, not the national merit scholarships for the PSAT. There are separate scholarships done at the college level where you get merit aid. We're not talking about the National Merit Scholarship Program, the PSAT, where less than 1% of all students get that. And you actually should know if you're going to score high enough by, and I'll talk about taking a practice test. So, well, Kaylee, again, so we're asking, how do we know if we need to take the SAT? Guys, I'm talking about that right now in terms of you need to do your research. I don't know where you're applying to. So if you're applying to schools that say you can be test optional, then maybe you don't need to take it. But what I'm telling you, I still recommend you take it because I don't know your college list. If you told me you want a community college, then don't take it. If you told me I want to apply to just UC schools and I don't want to apply for merit aid or I don't care about course placement, then don't take it. So again, should you take the SAT? My recommendation is to take it. If you need more specific information from you, then you probably need to reach out to us and say, well, my situation is this. A few more considerations. Again, if you don't have a score, and some people were asking this earlier, if I don't submit a score, then what happens? Well, other non-academic items in your application will carry more weight. So if you don't test, again, I said your essays, your letters of rec, that's going to carry more weight than your test scores now because you don't have a test score. So that's okay. For some of you, that might be more powerful for you not to have the test scores. Okay, so consider that. Do I want to let my letters of rec and my experience and other traits that I have, such as my character, my creativity, take more play? Or as a person pointed out earlier, I have a really high score, so should I submit it? Heck yeah, you should submit it. You know, especially if you're above what the school is typically averaging, then yes, submit it. It's going to be additive value. But if you don't want to go through that whole process and test, then don't take it. The other part of this is, and this is kind of talking about what you mentioned earlier, and that was, let's see who it was, Claire, you know, trying to get your test date. This is a big thing, folks, okay? Right now, for SAT, there's priority registration, and there's a lot of things going haywire on the website, but for SAT, there's priority registration, and then, and that's regular registration is opening up on June 3rd for these fall test dates. And for the ACT as well, there's, you know, June is canceled, April, you know, April was canceled. So if you want to get test dates coming up, we don't know if you're going to get them or not. So what I would suggest is register as early as you can, which would be this week. If you're considering taking it, I would register for the exam and get a test date. I wouldn't register for both because you shouldn't be taking both SAT and ACT. This is a whole nother conversation if you've never been to our things before, and I'll talk about that in a second. It's one test or the other. So if you're doing the SAT, then sign up for registration. If you're into priority registration, which means one of your tests got canceled, or you're the rising senior, you have priority for August, September, and October. So sign up today or tomorrow. The rest of you on June 3rd at 8 p.m. or Eastern, 5 p.m. our time, registration is open for everybody. Sign up for the SAT for August or September, okay? Just have it down. Even if you decide not to take it, it might be worth losing that it's $50 now, just to make sure you get a test date or changing the test date. So again, if you don't get your test date, then you might have to have a different plan. So Claire, unfortunately, your test dates were canceled, so you had to create another plan. So what I would do next, Claire, is see if you can get the next test date. And if you can, then set a plan for that. What's going to happen most likely this fall, like they did with AP exams, is if they don't have the in-person test dates, by this time, they'll have an online take-home test. And you'll have to kind of pivot to do that. And then you'll get your test under your belt. Okay. Again, that's setting up the plan for that. So again, lots of confusion about registering and getting your test date. Really important. So again, Reminder, priority registration is happening now, and you can sign up for a test. Those who aren't under priority, so you might be the rising juniors, you should still be able to get in there. Start registering this week and get your test date if you think you want to test. Then you can create your plan around that, okay? The other thing I like to bring up is opportunity cost, okay? If you choose to test and prep, then you might be not doing something else. You lose something. That's the opportunity cost from not doing the alternative, whether it might be taking a different class online or something you really love to do. You have to determine if it's worth it for you. Is it worth it for you to prep and test? Is it worth it for you just to test and go in and get a score on your belt? Is it worth it to just totally eliminate it and not put it in your candidacy and do something else? Kathy, thank you for sharing and being personal and saying you're applying to ASU. I don't know where else you're applying. If that's the only school you're applying to, again, if you don't know exactly every place you're applying to, then maybe taking the test might make sense. If it's test optional, what my recommendation for students is, whether it's going to make a difference or not, is if you don't have a mock exam or a practice exams, and if you're a rising junior, you should. If you're a rising senior, you should. You should know where you're scoring at right now. So for your sake, Kathy, you should know where your score is. If you don't know, by the way, one of the handouts, I'm going to send it out now, that I emailed earlier. It's just called Resources. I just shared it. You can download it to your desktop. Has links to a bunch of different things, important things I've talked about tonight. I'll talk about test optional in a second, as well as where you can go and take a free practice mock exam. If you don't have one yet, take one. So before you take it for real, before you even make the decision, take one. See where you're at. So the plan should be to have a mock score, see where I'm at. Oh, is that a good score? Is it a great score? Is it below average? And go from there. It's better to make a decision, a more informed decision, with data in your hand. Okay. If you don't have one, it's hard to kind of decide, should I take one? Is it going to help me or not? Well, if you don't know what you're scoring, then you don't know if it's going to help you or not. So again, a lot of kids we talk to and we counsel them, we make them take mock exams like we did all year. We do a mock testing program to give you the opportunity to see where you're scoring. Great, Kathy. So if you have a score and it's close to ASU, or if you do a little prep, it's going to bump you over that, then maybe it's worth taking the test. That's for you to decide. Okay. Another consideration is, again, I mentioned this earlier, just because you test doesn't mean you have to submit a score. Okay. And then the last piece is, again, if this is too overwhelming, and by the way, I've been doing this for over 20 years, SAT and ACT testing tends to be the most anxiety provoking piece of the whole thing. It's not filling out the applications. It's not writing your essays. It's taking these exams. If it's too much pressure for you, then bypass it. But just understand, if you do that, then you have to apply to test optional schools. Now, again, for those rising seniors, a lot of schools agree to go test optional for this fall. So you might be covered. You have to do your research. In that document that I just shared, I have a link for test optional schools. Okay, it's from fairtest.org. You can sort them by state. There's a PDF file. You can look at schools that are temporarily waiving the fall admissions to be test optional. So you can have a list. There'll be over 1,000 schools. So that's good news. So again, if it's too much for you, then don't take it. Okay, and I put the link here right on this slide, fairtest.org. Okay, so take a look at that. Yes, Claire, it's priorities for people who register previously. So you should be able to get in and register. So you should have that. So if they canceled your test, you should have priority registration. Okay, so let me take a deep breath. I'm going to go back to some of the questions. Ladies, Kristen, is there anything that's hanging from some questions from before that I haven't hit yet? Jen, you caught a couple. Great. Kristen, you caught a couple. I'm taking a peek right now. You got the junior college one. And I'm glad my counselors showed up. I wasn't expecting as many questions, and they're doing a great job handling the chat board. So okay, yeah, somebody mentioned subject tests. So again, a lot of schools are going test optional for subject tests. So again, part of it is going to be research on your part. A lot of schools are kind of bypassing the subject test requirement. If you are in a position right now to take one or the other, it's probably going to be you want to take the SAT or the ACT if you're going to do that. Okay, so look at some of those schools that you're considering applying to and see what their policies are. And that's part of the research. This is research you have to do. Okay, so what I'm saying, Claire, is you might have to register for September. July might even be canceled. We don't even know that yet. So my advice would be to shoot him an email on the site. Keep trying to get back in. And if not, it might be having to register for September, unfortunately. I know it sucks you've been prepping. And again, I don't know where you're scoring though, but if some of you are on the call and you've been prepping and you're scoring really well above your mock test score, I know it's tough. It's hard, it's easy to lose the momentum and stuff. And it's kind of a bummer what's going on. So, get the next earliest test date. July, I don't know what to tell you. It's kind of happening now. This just happened this week, so I don't have enough information and knowing what they're suggesting students do. They haven't shared that with us yet. So we're even counselors and advisors are kind of uncertain how to go and work around that. So I'm sorry, we don't have that information just yet. What I would suggest is if you can't get July, go for September, take a month off this summer, and then restart the process, or make a choice to say, if you're applying to schools that are test optional, then maybe not even taking it. But I think in your situation, it would make sense to take it knowing what I know about you. So, all right, a few more considerations. And when we talk about if you're deciding to test, so I want to take you through the last 5 minutes and then we're going to open up to full-on questions, is if you decide to test, okay? All right, you've now gone through this process and you say, hey, I'm going to take the test, Anthony. One of the things I said, and I said it earlier, is you need to take a mock test if you don't have one. That's going to help determine where you go with this. Because if you have a test score, you can determine how close you are, how far away. If you're far away from your goal score for the schools you want, it might not make sense to pull a whole summer long just to not even get to where you need to go. But you won't know that unless you have that test score. So in those resources I sent you, you're going to have that. And then find your best fit test. You only need to take an SAT or an ACT, not both, and compare those scores. Again, we can control this. We can control which tests we take. Choose the one you're stronger at, or if you're about equal on both, choose the one you prefer. So that's sticking with one and not both, okay? Don't just test this summer just to put it on your record. You should have the mock score. If you're not happy with that mock score, then don't take the official test. If you're happy with the score, then take the official test, okay? The other thing we recommend our students to do is define that goal score. What are you going to be happy with when it's all said and done? And that's what you should plan for, the type of prep required for that, and make sure it matches the input. So if you want the output to go up 200 points, don't just spend 2 days working on it. That's not going to cut it. So you really have to match all that, okay? And ideally, and it didn't happen for the seniors, if you're underclassmen, so rising junior, rising sophomore, Ideally, you want to finish your testing before senior if you can, so you can focus on all the other aspects of the application process. For my seniors, you might not have had that chance because of the way the tests have been moved. And then the other piece, and I'm going to hand another handout right now. So if you got it in an email, you don't need to download it, but I'm sharing a list of test prep providers. If you decide you're going to take the test, number one, and then number two, actually prepare for it, then you need to determine what does that prep plan look like. If you want large improvements, it's going to take a few months this summer. If you go, I'm kind of happy with my score, then just go and take it. You have to determine what it's worth for you to put in the time and the energy. And for some of you might go, I just want to enjoy time off and I don't want to put too much time in. Well, then you don't need to be taking a 30, 40-hour course. It's too much. So what I sent you is a list of test prep providers you can do some research on. I'm going to send you right now a list of free resources. If you choose, you don't want to spend any money or your budget's a little different because of this, especially during the situation. So there's some free resources, okay? And then the other piece, you have to determine, how much you want to invest, money, time, as well as your availability this summer. And possibly this summer, you might have more time than ever. Whether you choose to prep this summer or not is up to you. I always like the summer as a prep time because you're not in your classes. You're not fully invested into some of the other programs you are during the school year. And that's a really good time for you. But again, if you still are kind of unsure, then maybe waiting if you're more underclassmen, if you're a rising junior and you're not sure about college and you're not sure about your summer plans, or if you want to devote your summer or you just totally need a break, then put it off to the fall. That's okay as well. Anyway, so let's see. Kristen, answer a question. How close is it? Okay, so somebody's asking like, well, I being in school helps me in that mindset. I totally get it, but if you overlap too much, it gets overwhelming. And as Kristen's pointing out, applications for my rising seniors, applications can be a lot of work. Now, I recommend, and we recommend, my counselors are, there are some great online programs, self-paced programs to work on your essays this summer, to work on some career exploration. If you do a lot of that other work this summer, okay, which is more exploration stuff, then maybe you can wait a little bit longer. But again, don't underestimate that filling out applications is putting in this and putting in that and writing an activities list and writing some essays. It takes some work. And if you're trying to test and prepare for the test, usually it doesn't go, like one thing gets lost in the shuffle and it's not as good, So I usually like to separate the two. Maybe you can, knock out the prep and the test in a month and a half and be done, or 2 months, and then you move on to your school stuff or your applications in the fall. That's for you to determine. But if you're better in the school mindset, and some of you might be, then waiting till October and doing it end of August all the way through October, and you're a more of a crammer anyway, then go for it. You need to determine what, oh, thanks, Jen. And Jen put some of those self-paced programs, she listed the link to those where you can have access to some essay work, some career exploration. So again, that's going to be your own decision. You need to determine how much you can handle, not handle. I get that mindset, but the one thing most people don't understand about testing and prep is a lot of times they think, being in school is going to help me for the SAT and ACT. It really doesn't. You're kind of learning a different way to test. And so actually being out of that school mindset actually helps you focus on the strategy for testing. So keep that in mind as well. And then the last piece of determining your prep is understanding what types of a prep program are you interested in, what matches your learning style, your goals, what your schedule is, as in your budget. So you have some research to do, and that's why I sent you a bunch of lists of prep resources, free ones, some paid for ones. You can kind of do some. By the way, if you haven't taken a mock test and it's in those resources. Our friends at Revolution Prep who did our mock testing throughout the year are offering, even this weekend coming up, free live online proctored mock testing for you to continue for our students so they can test and kind of get this knocked out of the way. If you don't want to take one of theirs, also in that resource handout, I give you access to where you could just take one on your own and score it on your own. So that's up to you. That's going to help you in this process, and then ultimately determine if you should move forward with test. If you take that mock test, or you have one in your hand and you go, this is really not good for the schools that I want to go to, you might determine it's really not worth it to put 2 to 3 months in prepping to only go up 100 or 200 points, and I'm still not in the range I want to be. I'm going to move forward with being test optional. Thanks, Jen. Jen put it in the chat there, so you can register there. The link is actually in the Lisa, the mock test is not so different from the PSAT. That's up to you. Your PSAT score would, if you took it this October, would be a good indication, plus or minus 40 points of where you're at. If you're not happy with this score, you're going to have to determine how much do I want to go up. So if it's 100 points or 200 points, you're probably going to need some more formal prep that you need to do. But if you wanted to take, PSAT is a little bit shorter. So if you wanted to take a mock SAT, it wouldn't hurt you to do that again, but I don't know if you want to take 3 hours to do that. It's up to you. What I would recommend, Lisa, is if you haven't taken a mock ACT, doing that and seeing and comparing those scores. I would start with the mock ACT to see if the ACT is better suited for you than the SAT. Okay, and I always recommend that. My counselors and I do that. So again, considerations and thinking about planning tips is make sure you get your test date and location. A lot of you are trying to do that now, which is good. It won't hurt you to retake the test. So if you do take it, somebody mentioned it earlier, if I already took it once, can I take it again in the fall or sometime? Sure, you could take it a second time, and that, a lot of schools will take your highest sitting, or some of them we're going to super score. So it doesn't hurt you to take it a second time. What I would encourage you to do is don't just take it without any prep, because your score won't really change. You have to really do something about it, okay? And then my magic number is usually I wouldn't take it more than 3 times. Hopefully you only take it one because you prep properly, or maybe a second time because you just were nervous, okay? Okay, so that's kind of where I want to kind of end my considerations. I just want to say a couple more things about our resources. If you go to our resource library, it's also in that handout I said, you'll have a lot of different worksheets and guides and checklists. For my seniors, we have stuff on applications, filling out applications. For my younger students, which I think Richard was one of my younger students. He says he's a rising sophomore. There's information there and a timeline for you. You should download those. If you've never been to our site, check it out, get really familiar with that. Because that's where a lot of good information is, as well as our webinar locker. So if you go to our website, instead of /forums, it's /locker, you're going to find a lot of information on either a particular application or the essay or student athletes, on testing. Go check those out as well, okay? So the other pointer is we also have a free boot camp that you would do on your own. Jen put the link on the website or in the chat, and you can sign up for that if you didn't want to pay for a prep program. It's just a bunch of videos of some friends and myself talking to you about strategy, about testing. It's an introduction, so don't think you're going to go up 400 points on the SAT from it. It's an introduction. It's a good starter. And if you didn't want to put too much time and energy into prepping, but you wanted to do something, this is a really great program for that. Okay, so as we wrap up, I know people are keeping asking questions. My counselors are doing a fantastic job answering those. I had some of these questions come in earlier in the week, so I'll answer those as more questions come in. Somebody was going, do you recommend a self-paced SAT prep, especially with these changes happening in there? And because they were thinking that maybe it's not worth it to invest in a private tutor or a more comprehensive class. I don't know. And because I don't know you, I don't know where your starting score is and what your goal score is. So again, just because now UCs are test optional doesn't mean you shouldn't still test, doesn't mean you still shouldn't prep, and doesn't mean you still shouldn't put a lot of effort into it. It really depends on what your goals are and where you're ultimately applying to. So I would recommend a self-paced program like the one I'm showing on the screen right now. If you go, I'm really close to my score, I don't want to invest more than 5 or 10 hours into it, but I want to get a little bit more familiar with some strategy, then do that one and do a self-paced program. But if you go, I still want to get in and have a better chance of getting into UCLA, and I'm really close to my score, well, then I might say get a tutor or take a comprehensive class. Okay. All right. Other questions coming in. We are a little bit over an hour now, so we're right on schedule. I want to make sure I hit the last few questions coming in. Okay, somebody asked, Jake, you're asking, is the PSAT less rigorous? So yes, so let me comment on the PSAT because it's another nuance of it all. Jake, if you are a rising junior, okay, so what I would suggest you do before thinking that far ahead is still this summer take one of those mock tests. Okay, so before thinking about the fall in October, take a mock SAT with Revolution Prep or one on your own. You have the links now, and a mock ACT. Okay, so you should do that before. Now, if you don't want to do it this summer, you can still wait till September and do it. You don't have to take the PSAT at your school. It's a little bit shorter, but it also requires a larger registration fee, and you don't get your scores back till December, and that might be too late. So that mock test, you can get your score the day of, and you're going to get a printout of all your strengths and weaknesses. So you're going to have more data and earlier. And then I would say take the PSAT if you score really high on that mock SAT and you have a chance for National Merit Scholarship as a junior. But right now it's too early. What I would say is take that mock test this summer and see if you're in a range where maybe you should move forward with testing. That would be step one. Okay, so that's what I would say about the PSAT and holding off on that. It's better to do the mock test now and get some data points out, because maybe you get a score and you go, you're happy with, and you should test this summer. And you might even be done with it before even the PSAT from your school rolls around. So again, it becomes a timing thing and having a better time frame for that. But if you go, I just want to shut my mind off when the summer hits and I don't care about it, well, great. Then wait till the fall. We'll be doing mock testing again in September. Rihanna, yes, you should send. Reshma, the recordings are going to be on our website at CUSD-Futureology.org/locker. You go there for that. That would be probably in the end of the week. Mock tests, it's up to you if you want to time them. I recommend timing them, because if you don't time them, most people will do better because they're not under any pressure. So yes, time those. All right, so what score is possible to get national so that I know I should even shoot for it? Holland, if you take a mock SAT, we can tell you if you're going to even be close. So mock SAT, I would probably say in the 15, 30 and higher range would be a good mock score to thinking about national merit. If you score in the 1400 range, it's going to require a lot of prep to even get there. So that's what I would tell you about that. If you've taken the PSAT already and you have one of those index numbers, which would probably be, you probably would need around a 220 something to even be considered. So Barbara, oh, sorry, Kristen, you're answering some of these. I'm going up. So Barbara, you took the PSAT in 10th. Should you retake it as a junior for merit scholarship? Barbara, again, take them. I don't know what you scored, but if you're scoring 190 on your index or 180, then you're probably not going to get it. It's just being realistic. If you scored 215 or higher as a 10th grader, then you have a chance. Then maybe you take it as a junior. But again, take a mock SAT, do some thinking about it this summer. And if you do that and potentially prep this summer and actually take the SAT, you would know by the time the PSAT rolls around, because what you score in the SAT is kind of indicative of what you score in the PSAT. So again, if you're not scoring in the mid 1500s, then it's not worth it. Only less than 1% get a merit scholarship. We're so focused on that. And that's okay. You could still get a merit scholarship from your college if you apply to school and you're in the top 10, 10%. If you score a 1350, which would never be a merit scholar for PSAT, at New Mexico, they'll give you a lot of money to go to school there, or Oregon State. Yeah, so my counselors are answering. I'm going to just re-clarify. B saying it couldn't hurt to take the PSAT. It wouldn't hurt. It's just time and energy. But we would know ahead of time. So if you want to email me, like, should you take it for national merit? Well, if you're trying to take it for national merit and you're at 1200 right now, unfortunately, you're not going to get it. It's just a waste of 3 hours then of your time. You could be doing something else. That's what I call opportunity cost. What could you be doing in its place to help better your candidacy? You won't get a national merit scholarship. What you could do is prep 3 hours for the next administration of the SAT and how to get a better score. But taking the test in itself gives you experience. But if you're prepping this summer already, you're going to get that experience because you're going to take some mock tests while you're prepping, hopefully. Okay. All right. More questions. I know my counselors are still answering some. Yeah, you guys can wait. You don't have to take the test this summer and the fall. I told you, I like the summer because you're not in school. You're not competing with APs and other classes. If you're unsure of everything, then you can wait. You need to set the timetable or the time frame that works best for you. For some kids, they're doing nothing this summer, or a lot of their plans got changed. They're not traveling. They have the time. It's good. If you're not sure exactly what your college plans look like, if it's going to be a competitive school or not and everything, you might wait to see what comes up in the next year, and you spend your time researching or doing college virtual tours this summer. So again, what's the rush? Well, there is no rush. It's more of a timing thing. Do you want to be competing next year in the fall or the spring, prepping, trying to get a better score? But again, now is still a very good time to take a mock test because summer's about to hit and you have nothing else going on. It's really good to kind of just start with that and go from there. So Carol, she's taking the PSAT in October. Will it be smart to take the November SAT, or should she take a later date? Carol, I don't know exactly your situation, but if she takes the PSAT in the fall and then tries the November SAT, one, she won't have her score back, so she won't know where she's at, number one. Again, what I would recommend is to take a mock test this summer. Go to one of those Rev Prep things, get a score, see what she scores. That's her practice. And from there, you can take the September, October, November, December, March, whichever those test dates she wants, and prep. If you don't want to do it now, then take the mock test when we roll again out in September and not necessarily wait till October and then wait till December to get a score. The idea is to get a score so you know what you're working with. If you don't know what you're working with till December, I don't know about testing in November because you don't know what you're working with. You don't know what you need to work on. So again, it's data. Perfect. She's taken mock exams. So the PSAT is a moot point. So the next question is, which one is she better on? So the process would be, is she better at the SAT or the ACT? Then move to the next decision. And then if it's ACT, here are the test dates. If it's SAT, here are the test dates. If she took the mock test and she's nowhere near 1500 or higher, then I would forget the PSAT. If she is, then, and you want her for national merit, then I would consider prepping this summer and taking the SAT in September and then taking the PSAT in October. She'll then be prepped and ready for the PSAT to score. Perfect. So she should take the ACT. Guys, I'm glad everyone's staying on, and you're more welcome to stay on. I'll stay longer. I'll stay as long as most people have questions. And I don't want Carol shooting me her specific questions, which is great, and what is it intended for. So if you have some of your specific questions, please ask. My counselors and I will try to address those as quickly as we can. So Carol, I would have her sit towards the ACT and national merit. She could potentially get it with some prepping, but I don't know if I would waste the time. She would have better chance of getting merit scholarships from the colleges with that 33 and prepping a bit and trying to go for a 30. So for me, what you're telling me there is I wouldn't be waiting till November, December. I would be having her sit for the September ACT. She's scoring a 33, which is a great score for any college in the country. So I would have her, and then the question is going to become, does she want to prep for it? If she doesn't, 33 is still a great score. I would put it on her record and she's done with it. Or do a little bit prep, get a tutor, take a class, whatever, get a 34 or 35, and she's done with it. Now she's not testing during the school year at all. That's what I would do with her because her score is already so high, and she probably didn't do any prep for the mock test. So congratulations, she did amazing. 1430 doesn't really cut it for national merit. She would probably need to do a lot of work to get there. ACT, she's a bit closer. So that would be, again, a quick recommendation. I know nothing else, but based on what I'm seeing. Oh, and by the way, she could still take the PSAT and her prep for ACT. There's some things that cross over, might even help her. So two things I would do. I would take the ACT officially and prep for that. When that's over in September, right after that, I would take a mock SAT and see if she's scoring in the 1550 range. And if she is, then I would sit for the PSAT. If she's not, then I wouldn't sit for the actual PSAT. That's what I would do. So again, I'm just giving you what I'm going on and what you're telling me. So, all right, folks. Lots of information, lots of things to consider. Last point is we have we have a ton of futurology resources on our website. So again, I'm going to drive you there to go check those out. Visit our webinar locker. This recording will be up there with all the questions, from me answering the questions and giving you the summary. Check out our resource library. We have lots of documents, guides, and worksheets. We have on our events and page and appointments page, we have our self-paced online programs. And if over the summer there are some questions, urgent questions, you can email our CUSD-Futureology@capousd.org email. I monitor that over the summer, and so you can check that out. Monica just put our website on the board. We will not have appointments during the summer, Carol. We will be opening those up at late August for September. B gave you, she gave you the dates. So end of August. So for everybody on the call, for juniors and seniors, they have priority for our appointments in the fall. That will open in September. Registration will open in August, though. For all other students, again, keep update and periodically check our website, which Monica just gave, and that'll list all the events that we have coming up at the start. For our seniors, we'll have a lot of senior support for you as well. So Rachel, thank you. For those, we still have a lot of people. Again, I will stay on if you have additional questions, just because we don't have any more appointments this school year, and I want to make sure that you have some type of plan going into the summer. Again, testing is just one piece of the puzzle, guys. There are so many other things in comprehensive review or holistic review that don't feel the need that you do have to test. But again, for us, if you want your options open, you don't want to limit yourself, then it's not a bad idea to go ahead and test. Go ahead, Kaylee. You can email me directly for a last question or just chat it in there. And again, thank you to Jen, B, Monica, and Kristen. I wouldn't have been able to do this with you answering so many questions. It helped me keep on track and not have to scroll back as much as I did. So go ahead, Kaylee, ask your question if you want to email it to me. Either, again, privately to my email or our CSD email, or just here in the chat right now. Max, all right, showing up again. Max, you probably know what to do. You probably could actually deliver this. So yes, where my counselors and I, you can go to our website. You could even get my individual counselors' emails as well. We are here this week. So, and next week, so you can reach out to us if you have a specific question. Like Carol's questions in here were really specific to her situation. That helps you make better decisions. So the more specifics we know, the better advice we can give. Otherwise, it's more general, as you kind of heard tonight. So you're welcome, Carol. And thank you. Thanks, Max. I miss you too. Hopefully we'll be back in the fall and we'll be able to kind of meet with you individually. So, and if I missed your question, just shoot me an email and I'll answer. Oh, yes, Kaylee, that is still, if you take for the College Promise Program, if you take Counseling 100. If that was that your question? Again, like I like to tell them, you're more than a test score, for sure. That was kind of B's motto over there. You're more than a test score. So if you decide not to go down this path, no problem. Then we're going to make your essays really good if you work with us. So my rising seniors, come to our essay workshops, come to our applications where we can really help you write up your activities lists and make them really solid and make sure you fill everything out. So that can be done as well. Thanks, Kristen, for your help. Kaylee, yes, so you're good. So take that class this fall, and that's an option. I would keep that option open too. But if you're not sure about community college, if you are definitely sure about community college, then maybe you don't test. But if you're not fully sure, then take that class and still take the test. Good night. Good night. Um, well, Kaylee, I didn't hear that myself. So let's, and this is, thanks, Jen. But I will, again, things are changing every day. Doesn't mean because I didn't hear it, doesn't mean that it's not happening. So let's check with my contact. So email me personally. So, and we will follow up. I'm going to check in with my contact over there. So there's my email, Kaylee, and just shoot me an email so I have your email, and I'll just track that down from my contact at Saddleback. So, and again, these things are changing every day. It might happen with some of the budget cuts, or there might be some more parameters around that. So we'll find that out. All right, we got 29 folks left. Any 29 of you have any questions? Otherwise, we're going to wrap it up and I'm going to kick you guys out. Hopefully you have a little bit more information to make some decisions. And if you're still unsure, please reach out to myself or my counselors in the next week before they go off on summer vacation. All right. Well, good night, everyone. Thanks again. I'm going to call it quits. Have a good night.